We have our established quorum, and the first item will be to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 14th and the special board meeting of July 30th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Oh, Connie's outside. Neat.
No.
All right, all in favor? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That brings us to the report section, and Mr. Wiggins, you are up first.
Okay, I'm going to just go through a few things, several things that we are doing as we come back to school that are a little bit different this year, and just remind you of some things that you all have already been told and maybe give you some information that you have not heard before. But a lot of this was worked through with our Ready for Learning committee. And so I'm just going to go through and talk about some things that we're going to do as we come back to school this year. First of all, you all passed the mask or face covering policy last board meeting. So all students and staff will be wearing masks or face coverings during the day, as long as, unless they can socially distance. And so a lot of our rooms, they will not be able to necessarily get that 6 feet distance between desks, so they will be wearing masks, and we will be giving opportunities for those kids to have breaks during the course of the day. We will have designated spots and rooms to go and be a mask-free zone that's socially distant, so they can have a break. We will be doing screenings, but not our staff will not be doing screenings of kids or staff. We are asking parents to screen students with screening questions that the Department of Health and CDC has provided and that we have on our website. And then we are going to ask parents to screen before they send their kids to school, whether that's on the bus or bringing them in their cars or walking. But it's up to the parents to self-screen or screen their children before they send them to school. And if they do not pass the screening or they can't answer no to all of those questions, then they are expected to keep their child at home if they're not feeling well or sick. We will be doing the same thing for our staff. We have been doing temperature checks of our staff over the summer. That is not required as we go into the school year. And I've had some questions about why we are not doing temperature checks for all of our kids and our staff. There are statistics that show about 70% of kids, school-age kids, that are tested positive for COVID don't have any symptoms. So the temperature checks don't do anything to protect anyone from those students who are asymptomatic. And that is the majority of students who test positive are asymptomatic. So we did not feel that that was, and there's guidance that shows that that's not an adequate or an effective means of stopping the spread because of that reason. So that is not something we've chosen to do. We've asked our parents to screen their kids and our staff to screen themselves. Distancing, social distancing. We have done some things in hallways to try to remind our kids to socially distance from each other with dots on the floor and center lines down the hallways and asking them to stay to the right. We are going to space out to the best of our ability desks in classrooms to give them an opportunity to get as far away from each other as possible for the majority of the day. Cafeteria, I've had some questions about lunches and how we are going to situate or how we're going to account for lunches. We have actually added lunch periods to all of our buildings, I believe, and so that we can get to less than 50% capacity in each of our cafeterias for lunch. So maintenance helped our principals determine what the max capacity of seating actually was in each cafeteria. And we will have, at any given lunch, we will have less than 50% of that capacity in there at one time. So that's required us to add some lunches and change some schedules in some buildings. POC, point of contact, will be a title that comes into play this year that we've not had prior to this year. Our point of contact for our district will be Shane Patrick, and he will be the person that all COVID related issues go through to the Department of Health and then come back through to us. So if we have a positive case reported, that gets reported to Shane. Shane contacts the Department of Health. We do a little bit of background to try to determine probable close contacts. And anyway, Shane is actually going to, I think, talk about that role a little bit in his report. So I won't steal his thunder. Visitors to campus. Basically, we will not be allowing visitors to campus inside the schools. They can come as long as they're wearing face masks. They can come into the offices, but we will not be letting them pass the offices into the schools. So that goes for parents walking students to class or to elementary grade schools. They will not be allowed to walk their kids into the classroom or into the building this year. That's a big change. So our elementary schools have tried to get that information out to parents that if they bring their child to school or walk up, they will have to exchange them at the door with our faculty. They will not be coming into the buildings. Transportation. Our buses, we will have assigned seats on our buses, and we will do it. I believe we're going to load from the back to the front as we pick up, and students will sit in family groups. If there's more than one child from a household, then they'll sit together. That way we're limiting exposure to family groups as much as possible. And then when we get off, they will do so in the reverse order, and the closest ones to the front will be the first ones off, and then the back ones will be the last ones off. So those assigned seats will be the same for morning and afternoon. Cleaning. Obviously, we have put a stress on cleaning and sanitizing our buildings and doing that often. So our custodians during the day will have more responsibilities as far as cleaning during the day, sanitizing during the day. And then we have talked to our night cleaning crews about additional measures that we're going to put in place at night as well. We will have hand sanitizer throughout the district on buses so that that's constantly available. And we will be trying to train our kids and our staff to use sanitizer and wash their hands regularly. Technology, I'm getting into the everything so far has been kind of the safety and security side. Now I'm going to get into the instructional side just a little bit. From the technology side, we have purchased a lot of technology in the last 4 months, trying to prepare for whatever might come. And we have basically given all of our teachers a brand new laptop so that they can take it with them to home if we go to a remote learning situation, because a lot of them did not have the right equipment at their home to do remote teaching in the spring. So that was one thing that became pretty obvious. So all of them will have a laptop this year, brand new. All of them will have a brand new document camera this year. We ordered 350 new document cameras, so that if we have to do remote or just on a regular daily basis in their classrooms, they will be using that new technology to be better prepared to serve our kids. We have also done quite a bit, and we are in the process of providing a lot of professional development on tools and strategies for technology and how to implement some things that we've put in place to better teach not only our kids in the classroom, but any kids who might be quarantined at home. And I did say something about teachers teaching from home a while ago. Actually, if we go remote, our teachers will be on site this year. That'll be a change as well. If we have to go to remote, our teachers will still come in. They will teach from their classroom, just like a regular day, and our kids would be remote. And so they would be watching their teachers at the classroom using the tools that we've provided. I got 2 or 3 more things, but before I go into those, do you have any questions, comments about the safety part that I've gone through or that instructional part that I went through?
I've got one, Jody, or a
Okay.
couple. Are parents, I know it's a little thing, but are parents aware of the first day even that they're not going to be able to walk their kids in, and, you know, thinking of course, the kindergarten and little ones who like the picture with with teacher and all that, or have parents been made aware?
Yes, our principals in those buildings are trying to do that. We've had a video go out from one building, I know, a letter go out from another building to all the parents. We've also stressed that in our virtual open houses and any information that we've done through those virtual open houses. So we're trying to get that information out as best we can, building by building. And it's more of an issue at the lower grades. And I know those two principals have already sent something out trying to reach all of their parents.
Good, yeah. And then you talked about the bus trips. Or are there additional bus trips to help reduce the numbers on each bus, or you're able to work that out?
We social distancing on a school bus is not really possible. And when we look, we have pretty full buses every morning and afternoon. Right. So we have not made adjustments to that. Students will be wearing masks. Bus drivers will be wearing masks on the buses, and we will do the assigned seats and try to group by families. Parents are encouraged to bring their students if they don't feel comfortable with putting them on the bus, either by car or letting them walk if they're close enough. But that's what we and just about every other school district, that's the best we can do on the buses.
Yeah. And then last one, with the teachers and their new laptops, are they being asked to record basically all of their sessions, every day, just in case kids are at home and things, not just if we happen to, have to have kids at home, but daily as well, right? Because inevitably we're going to have some at home and even.
Right. Yes, sir. That was a focus of our professional development, these 8 days that we are doing before school starts. One thing that we have asked our teachers to do that's new for them is that they will be videotaping and audio taping their lessons or their instructional pieces each day and uploading those to their Google Classroom site, so that if a student is quarantined, or if we have multiple students quarantined from a classroom, that they can actually get that day's instruction from Google Classroom on a little bit of a delayed basis. It won't be live and synchronous. It won't be live streamed, but they will be able to tape it, upload it to Google Classroom, and then the kids will be able to watch it later that day.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jody, in the upper grades, I'm sorry, Grant.
Oh, you're fine.
In the upper grades, cleaning of student desks between classrooms, how is that happening? Is it going to happen?
All of our teachers will have cleaning supplies in their classroom for the purpose of cleaning in between classes and in between exchanges. We have stressed that to our teachers during this professional development session as well.
Okay, so I assume then there's a group that will be monitoring the halls as well as those.
Yes, and I think each building is doing that slightly different, but I think some of them are trading off on the hall duty in between and taking care of each other's classes. So they're working that out kind of by building by hall to figure out how that works.
Okay.
It's my assumption also the importance of the assigned seating on the buses and the cafeteria and everything is not only for social distancing, but is that for potential tracking of any potential cases?
Yes, sir. And Shane will talk about his role as point of contact, and that may be something that he gets into. But absolutely, part of the reasoning for the assigned seating everywhere is so that we can know which students have been around which students for the majority of the time during the day.
Jody, did we have to add any additional maintenance staff or anything?
We have not yet. Our night cleaning crew thinks that they can take on the additional responsibilities. We've had that conversation with them. They're our day custodians. We are going to see how it goes. We don't know what we don't know at this point. So once we get back in school and everything starts, we have 4,300 kids on campus, then we may realize that we come up short someplace. But as of right now, we have not.
Okay.
Now my turn on a question on lunches.
Yes.
So you were saying that you figured out the social distance or to cut it to 50%. So are you adding another lunch? Like if they had 2, you're going to have 3 or something like that. Is that the way that's going to go?
Yes, sir. And so that will, as far as additional staff, it won't be additional staff, but we will have some cafeteria workers that may have additional time during the day than they've had previously, because our lunch serving time may extend for a greater period of time over the course of the day because we're adding lunch periods.
Right. Okay.
So at the high school, let's say, for lunches, does that mean one class period will be split into 3 pieces? Or is that going to be split over 2 class times?
I think that the way they're doing it is they're doing it all in one period. So there will be a certain group of kids that go for a short period of time, go to lunch, go to third period, a short period of time, go to lunch, and then come back and finish. There will be another group that possibly goes a longer period of time, then goes to lunch and comes back a short period of time. And then one that probably doesn't have a split third period.
Okay.
Any other questions on what I've covered so far? Okay, I saved a few things here because these are still a little bit up in the air, and that's not because we're up in the air on what to do. It's just that directions and guidance have been slow and forthcoming, or we are expecting additional guidance very quickly. Athletics, band, and choir. Athletics, we have been approved at this point to practice, and so we have practices going on. We have not been approved to have any competitions yet. Now we have scrimmage game competitions scheduled for next week. One on Monday night, one on, I think, Thursday night, football on Monday night, and I think another volleyball on Thursday night. We have not been approved to have those competitions yet. So we are in limbo on what we are doing next week. We had to submit large event plans for our stadium and our gym, and we have done that. We got approval back on the stadium today, but it specifically said that it was approval only for a scrimmage game, but not a competition between schools. So that still doesn't give us permission to do our scrimmage game on Monday night. So we are waiting for further guidance on that, and hopefully that will be forthcoming tomorrow because Monday's going to be a little late. Band and choir, we have very strict restrictions on how band and choir can practice. They both have to be, anything band or choir related has to be done outside, and choir has to be spaced 6 feet apart outside with masks on. Band has to be spaced, some of the instruments 12 feet apart outside with masks on. And the next question should be, how do you play a trumpet with a mask on? And what the guidance was that they would cut a slit in their mask and blow their horn through the slit. And if you're playing a flute, you put it in the side of your mask, under the mask, and blow your flute. So we are still awaiting to see if we get anything further on that, but that is the current guidance that has come out that we have provided to our fine arts teachers.
I would assume they only practice during good weather.
If they're going to be outside, yes, it's going to be. Although some of them have been practicing already out in the 95-degree heat. So if it's raining, though, that becomes a little bit more difficult. And then if we go into cold weather, it becomes a little more difficult also.
Well, the trumpet will be easy. The tuba will be a little tougher on the mouthpiece. Goodness sakes. Okay.
Do you all have any questions over any of that?
No.
So a lot of that there's been a lot of planning around all of those things that I just talked about from our administrative team, our principals, and trying to put things in place to help our teachers be successful and our kids be successful this year. And so I truly appreciate my team and that Ready for Learning committee who went through all of these things, and we had conversations about all of these things and questions about all of these things. I truly appreciate the work and the effort that has gone into planning for all of that. Anyway, so that gives you kind of a synopsis of what we had in our planning document for the Ready for Learning plan. I've sent that to you all, but I wanted to kind of hit the highlights of that with you. And our principals are supposed to be doing that as well with our teachers, so that they know basically what I've told you there, kind of from a district perspective, what we're doing across the board. The only other thing I have for a report is that school board members this year are required by law to have a student discipline and bullying professional development or training. And there is one scheduled for next week. And according to what we know as of right now, that may be the only one scheduled. So I'm going to give you this date, and Bambi is going to send something out to you. The training is on August the 18th. That is next Tuesday, I believe. And it is from 5 to 6 p.m. in the evening. So it's a 1-hour training, and there was a law passed that all board members had to have this training this year. So next Tuesday evening, 5 to 6 p.m., student discipline and bullying. And it is required. Bambi was hoping to have information that there might be another session offered at some point, or the opportunity to watch a recorded version of it, but I don't think that we received that information yet. Correct, Bambi? Okay. So she will send you out further information about that in an email.
Is this a Zoom or is it a face-to-face? Or
I believe it's a Zoom. Yes. Okay, and I said that was my last thing. I do have one more thing. Our September meeting, September the 10th, I would suggest that we go back to an on-site board meeting. If you all are okay with that, you can give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. But I would suggest that we come back on site with our board meeting starting in September. Okay, I think I saw thumbs up from just about everybody there. So we will plan on September the 10th being back on site, if that's okay. All right, I'm going to say that that's the end of my report.
All right. Thank you, Jody. And hats off to you and your staff for all this stuff y'all are doing. It's very commendable, the work that's going into that to protect our kids and teachers, and it's pretty overwhelming, really. Wow. Wow. Appreciate all of you, for sure. All right, we'll go to Amy Carter.
Good evening. I want to provide you a quick update about the Siloam Springs Virtual Academy. We have had a busy few weeks developing this and trying to keep you informed through the whole process. So currently we have enrolled 633 students into the Virtual Academy. We have over the last, well, this week actually, now that I'm thinking about this is Thursday. So Monday, our K-6 teachers were trained on the Pearson platform, and they have at least some working knowledge of what that looks like and what their job is going to be. And then today and tomorrow, our 712 teachers are being trained on the Summit platform so that they understand. We know we have a few teachers with experience in that area, but we need all of the 712 teachers to have some knowledge of what that is. So we've been working on trying to get everyone trained and at least feeling comfortable with their new role as far as a virtual teacher. So this week we have also hosted device and schedule pickup, as well as some short parent-student training sessions. And so the I think our current number sits at 429 out of 633 devices have been picked up for our students or by the students. So that's roughly 2/3 have been picked up. We have another session tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. until noon. That is going to be kind of a last minute push to help us get out additional devices. So we've been communicating that through phone calls and emails and social media. And then we're scheduling the last final pickup session will be next Wednesday from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. to allow that opportunity for parents and students to come late afternoon and after a lot of people get off work. So over these next 2 half days, we hope we can get that last 203 group of our kiddos that need their devices and help us with that. The teachers in the training today were 712. They had a lot of questions and thoughtful conversation. Miss King and Miss Schlake participated in some or all of those trainings today with the teachers. And from what I understand, they had a lot of their questions answered through the training, and then they still have one more day tomorrow. And then next week, our teachers, all virtual teachers, K-12, have additional curriculum days that are going to allow them opportunities to work as a team and help each other through the platforms, through the training materials, and set up their curriculum so that they will be ready to rock and roll on the 24th with all 633 students. So that is kind of where we sit at this moment with our virtual academy. So do you have questions or anything about the virtual piece?
One quick one on your devices, of picking up the devices. Are they picking them up at their respective schools, or how's that working?
No, sir, they are picking up devices at our, well, it's at the middle school, but the South End offices are where we've set up the virtual academy. So
Okay.
we have Miss Schlake and a registrar's office set up. So when we actually get that person in a seat, that will actually be the location for the virtual academy. So we've been
Okay.
using the, I think they call it the concourse, the big open area hallway. And so we have tables set up.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So students new to the district are not allowed choice anymore, correct? Like if they're new, they cannot be virtual, they have to be face-to-face.
Yes, correct. Right now, we're holding at our 633, and we have started a new waiting list that each school has access to. And so as parents call Southside or Northside or Allen Middle School, whichever campus, if they want on the waiting list, then we're keeping that a recurring document. And we have had students since Monday, I believe that number, I don't know exactly, but I think it's in the 60s that we've already had sign up on the waiting list this current week.
Decided to change from Pearson to Summit, which I think was probably a good idea, not to try to do two things at the high school. Was that a savings for us? Or is it a
Substantial.
wash?
Nope, it's a substantial savings by using the Summit curriculum. Is a free curriculum piece that we can work with. And so that is definitely a cost saving maneuver that we did. So that wasn't a decision, wasn't made lightly. We did a lot of pros and cons and a lot of discussion between Mr. Wiggins, myself, several teachers and other individuals, of course, Miss Lake and Miss King. to actually land there. But it does go, Dr. Mitchell, to what you said about helping that high school not necessarily run two different pieces like Summit and at Pearson.
And Summit offers AP courses, correct?
They do offer AP courses, and glad you brought that up. Some of our courses in 712, because we are asking teachers on site to be on-site teachers as well as virtual teachers so that our kids see Siloam educators. Some of our courses, and I don't know the number yet until we get schedules solidified, we will be using Virtual Arkansas, which is already a third-party provider that we've used in previous years for a few kids here and there that needed an additional course. So we will run into that this time as well. And that allows AP courses or general, just regular ed courses to be offered through that platform if needed.
Two questions on the virtual academy. How is attendance? Is there a set time that they have to be logged on for attendance purposes?
Okay, so for attendance, the state put out some different attendance expectations for the entire school year, not just virtual students. But what we have learned through our platform providers is a student roughly could expect to spend about 4 hours a day working through curriculum. That doesn't mean it's all online. It may be something that they need to do independently and then come back to it, but that their education would take roughly 4 hours. There's not a specific time. They could start at 10 a.m. in the morning. They could spend about an hour and walk away and do something and come back again at 1. So it's not necessarily 4 hours in a row. It's just that's kind of the average. So some students, of course, are going to get finished in 2 hours, where somebody else that might like to play or have attention issues might take 5 or 6 hours. And so that's where the parent piece is going to be really important to help support that child and be able to balance their time on a computer with finishing their work products and then getting them to step away from the computer or getting them to do some other things at certain times as well.
And the second part is for testing. Will they have to come in for testing or?
Yes, that is something that they will have to do, which that's in all the program guides, and we have stated that since June. When they take their Arkansas Aspire summative assessments or even the interims along the way that we will take through the year, those are required to be on campus, and we have to take those at a designated time. So like all third graders have to take that assessment in that same 1 or 2 day span of time.
What happens if a student starts the virtual program and then feels like it's not working and they want to consider coming on site? Is that a possibility?
Okay, so what we have asked this so far is that we get a semester commitment. And so from the start of school through the first semester, we are going to support them and provide support mechanisms to help them be successful in that academy. And then they can return to brick and mortar on-site instruction in January. Now, knowing that, our purpose in that is we don't necessarily want a revolving door through our 6 or 7 campuses of every 2 or 3 weeks. They receive an influx of students coming in. That makes it difficult for both sets of teachers. And so, of course, if there were extreme circumstances or something, which is also what we've stated in meetings and Zoom meetings and different things, we can look at that individually because we want our children to succeed. So if there is an individual that's not having any success, then a group of individuals that supports that child can make that decision with the parents and the child.
Thank you.
I'd like to go back to Connie's question about cost savings. I want to make a point that it is a substantial cost savings for us to switch from Pearson at the secondary level to Summit, but that was not the deciding factor. As we progressed along with Pearson, it became obvious that it was going to be extremely difficult for us to get our teachers trained at the high school level in the numbers that we needed, and to determine which teachers we actually needed to have trained. We also realized that the Summit curriculum is something we are already familiar with because we've been doing it for several years at the high school. And it was a natural transition for those teachers to switch over and start teaching the Summit curriculum as a virtual platform. And that's not necessarily what it was designed for, but we think it will be a very good platform for that. And we were also already using the virtual Arkansas Virtual School for some courses. So that was a natural progression as well. So even though it is a good cost savings for us to make that switch, that was not necessarily the reason we made that switch. We think long-term, this is a better solution if we are going to keep the virtual academy going. This is a possible a better solution long-term than the Pearson at the secondary level, at least.
Okay.
There questions? Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to Mr. Patrick.
Yes. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, a little bit of a quick summer update. I covered most of these topics throughout the summer at the board meetings we've had, but I want to make sure that you guys are aware we have finished our waxing of our floors. In that process, we have put dots in every hallway to remind students and staff of the 6-foot mark. Those have been waxed over the top of so that they don't come up. I want to really talk about how much I appreciate our maintenance and custodial staffs for the work that they've done. They have spent a lot of time doing things that they had not planned on doing this summer, and they were able to get those things done, and most, if not all, of their other projects. We do still have a few projects that we're working on, but we anticipate by the 24th that 99% of those projects will be done that are regular planned. And so Randall and Dustin and their crew, they've done a wonderful job, and I really appreciate that, as well as they've stayed up on the mowing and kept all of these, you know, I think it's like 700 and something acres that we try to mow around here total. It's probably not that much, but it seems like it's 700 acres. So they keep all that stuff done. I appreciate what their departments do. The other thing I want to give you an update on, we're still serving meals. Our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers are working constantly to get meals out. We're serving 10 meals a week. So they get a breakfast and a lunch for every day of the week. We're serving those still on Mondays and Wednesdays, and they're doing a wonderful job. And they have just shown true dedication. Those departments haven't had to work like they're working since this all started in March. And they really rose to the occasion. So Steve Avery's department, Jason Carter's department, they have just done a fabulous job of making sure the children of Siloam Springs are not going to go hungry. We find ways to get them food. So I want to give those guys some recognition, all those people recognition. Does anybody have any questions about summer projects that maybe you had a specific question about before we move on?
And I was going to, I've seen a little bit of work at the track up there.
Yes, sir.
And on the, I guess, the west side, are they still in line with the schedule of completing that and everything? And how's that?
Yes, we are. What we had, one of the things that got missed by our engineer is they did not take into account the type of pole vault padding that we had already had. So what you see them doing over there is there needed to be some small, I think it turned out to be like 4x8 wings off of the existing concrete for the pads that go down the runway on each end. And so that's the work that's been going on over there. About a month ago, we finally got our dirt contractor to finish up a little drainage project that I wasn't happy with the way the water was draining. And we finally got that done about a month ago. But then they finished that concrete work up, or they're in the process of finishing up now. So I'm really pleased with that. The gate is going up. We've hit a little snag here and there with some scheduling stuff, but they assure me that's going to be up here shortly. Most of it is up. And so we're real excited about getting that project completely finished here in the next few weeks.
Is that with the company that's providing that gate? You having some issues with them?
You know, it's one of those things where we had to get some stuff done and they had to get some stuff done.
I hear you, I guess.
Any other questions?
Hey, I would also like to just say too, it's great to drive around the campuses, and you just mentioned the mowing, just little things like that. Just, it's great to see it still kept up and during this time, because you know, crews are limited everywhere, and it's very nice to see the campuses. So good job.
Very proud of those guys. They do wonderful work. All right. The other thing that I wanted to quickly talk about, this is one of the things that Mr. Wiggins mentioned earlier, that he appointed me to take over and work through. The state has sent a mandate that every school district have what they're calling a point of contact. This point of contact's main job is to be the sole communication person with the Department of Health for all COVID-related matters. And so anytime we have a student or staff member who tests positive, then it's my job to collect some information, call the hotline. And so I want to, some things that you're going to hear that I want to make sure that you're aware of, that's just a few vocabulary things that I think are really important, is probable close contact. You're going to hear that a lot. And that term is for somebody who has been within 6 feet for 15 cumulative minutes in a 24-hour period of somebody who has a confirmed positive test. So if I test positive for COVID-19 and I have been within 6 feet for 15 minutes in a 24-hour period, Mr. Wiggins, then he could be considered a close probable contact or probable close contact. Now, why that, and let me say there's another little stipulation in there. There's basically a 3-day window of time that contact can happen. It's either from the day symptoms start and the 48 hours prior, or if it's asymptomatic person, it's the day of their test and the 48 hours prior. So it has to happen within those 3 days. And once we've determined somebody is a probable close contact, we will request that they quarantine for 14 days. And we will suggest that they and encourage them to go see their doctor or go get tested. And so that's real important to understand what those terms mean. So when I say somebody's a probable close contact, I determine they're a probable close contact, then I let the Department of Health know. They make the determination whether they were actually a close probable contact.
Before you go on with that, if that was the case, why is it a requirement for the 14-day quarantine? Shouldn't they just be tested and wait on their test results to come back?
Well, the science behind it is that the incubation period is different for every person. So if I get close contact with somebody and I go get tested and it's negative, but 3 days later, if I was tested again, it could be positive because the incubation period hadn't had long enough. So they are quarantining everyone who has a close contact with somebody for that 14-day period.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And there is a difference between and two other terms that I think are real important for you and as well as our public to understand are the difference between quarantine and isolation. Quarantine is for somebody who is a close contact. They do not have a test themselves that says they are positive. Isolation is somebody who has a test that says they are positive. And that isolation is 10 days as long as they don't have any symptoms and haven't had any symptoms for 24 hours at the end of that 10 days. So it could go on longer, but if they don't have any symptoms for the last 24 hours of that 10 days, then their isolation period could be over. So it's confusing for some people because it seems like they're actually held to a shorter time if they actually test positive. But the reason for that is that's the course of the virus. And then the longer 14 days is because every incubation period is different for each individual person. So we only deal with we only trace from actual positive cases that somebody's had actual contact with that person or they have a positive case themselves. We don't quarantine people who are their cousin that they saw last Sunday at church from across the aisle is tested positive, but they haven't, they're not actually been in the room with them. It's, I spend a lot of time explaining to people why they actually don't need to quarantine. And so this is going to be a time consuming thing, but I think it's probably going to be my full-time job for the most part here for the next several months as we start school. It's going to get a lot. So I wanted to also mention that as with anything, we always have a backup. Our director of nursing, Lori Tugwell, is going to be our backup point of contact, and she works with me on a regular basis to help me work through all of this. Along with the point of contact information, we have also developed a plan for our nurses, how to handle things at the school level, because we know that during times can be overwhelmed, and we've had to come up with plans on how to deal with students who might show symptoms at school. And so we put those plans into place. Another part of the reporting of the point of contact is the fact we will be reporting to the public. Now, we won't give any specific information like names or students or staff members, but we are going to be required to be open with the public. So if we have 10 positive cases in the district, we will have a page on our website where we would say that. We would have 10 positive cases within the school district. And that's part of the requirement from the state. The last thing I wanted to mention to everybody is the response levels. So if we start getting a multitude of cases, I will be in contact along with talking to Mr. Wiggins, and we will be talking to the Department of Health and giving them all the information, and they will help us based upon the response level, the determined response level, how we're going to handle those situations. And the state has put out a 3-tiered response. There is no quota. There is no number. If you have a certain number of cases or a certain percentage of cases in the district, that you're going to do this. It is going to be on case-by-case basis throughout the district. And the reason they put this in place was to keep from just shutting entire schools and school districts down when really we might only need to shut a classroom down and send 20 kids home and a teacher home for 2 weeks and keep everybody else going to school. So we will work with them, with the Department of Health, and they do have the final say, along with Mr. Wiggins, on when we shut a school district down or how we do that. I know that was fast and furious, but you have any questions?
I would just like to add that, you know, I know it's been said that it's and put on the school district to keep the community safe. And that's been brought up, you know, in letters or so. But it's also vital that the community keeps the school district safe and the parents are diligent in checking the temperatures and actually doing the questionnaires and not just becoming repetitive. And I think it's very important, the work you're doing, and that the community helps the school district stay safe as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We are going to all have to do things different to educate our kids of our community. It's going to be real important for parents to not send their kids to school sick. You know, if they have a fever when they get up, they can't give them Tylenol and send them to school. They're going to have to keep them home. And we're actually having to retrain our employees a little bit. You know, we have a hard work ethic group of employees that they suck it up every day and come to work no matter what. And we're having to retrain them on, if you're sick, don't come to work. You know, you might think you know what you have, but until you have a test, you don't know what you have. It could be COVID-19 or it could not be, but either way, we don't need to be in other people.
Are there, it seems like in the past, and I don't know the number and probably should, but there's a certain amount of sick days that a child can have before, you know, action is taken, whatever that is. Has that increased? Is it just a case-by-case basis right now? You know what I mean?
So as Ms. Carter mentioned earlier, the state has kind of changed the definition of an absence. So we will not be counting, if they have COVID-related absences, actual sick-related absences, they will not have that where we would turn them over, like turn a FINS in, send a FINS into the juvenile court. That is all being taken into account. There's not been any more numbers added to their absences, but what is coded an excused absence versus an unexcused absence, that has changed a little bit, and it's going to make it more doable. But it's also going to hold people, some people, more accountable because it's very specific on what is not an excused absence, and so it's a lot easier to get down to that. And if we need to involve the juvenile authorities, we will. And that goes for, that's not just for face-to-face, that's also for virtual. They're held to that standard as well.
Travis, the changed definition from the state as far as what an absence is for a student, actually, if a student stays home sick and they come in virtually or remotely and keep up with class, they're not going to be counted absent. So that number kind of goes away if they're responsible in what they're doing.
Gotcha. Good.
Any other questions?
I'll add to Shane's presentation that we've been given some tools that we have information by county, by city, and now, as of today, by school district on the number of cases cumulative and the number of active cases. And we are getting that information updated regularly by district, by city, and by county, so that if we have several cases come up in the school district, we can not only base our decisions with the Department of Health on the data that we know about within our schools, but also what's going on in our community, what's going on in our district as far as outside of our students, and what's going on in our county. So we have quite a bit of data at our fingertips now to help us make good decisions.
Jane, I was just thinking that you are talking about how you're going to have to give these definitions over and over for people. You know, would it be worth making a couple short videos or a short video and putting it up on your website, you know, with some of this information, so that maybe it would save you from having to review it over and over again with people, at least for some.
Yes, ma'am. I've actually been working on putting together a page, and then I'll get with Bambi when I get the content together here in the next week. We hope to have a page posted that has all the charts that show that. And I hadn't thought about a video, but I could definitely do a video on that. I know I spent a lot of time with principals so that they understood it, so they could help try to talk to their faculties about it as well. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Shane. One more question real quick before we move on for Shane is, are we going to have a page, like a COVID page for the school district on our website that specifically addresses all this stuff and gives
Yes, sir,
numbers and all that?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm working on. Putting the content, what all we want on there, and then Bambi and I will get together. I kind of mentioned it to her a few days ago, and we'll get together and get that set up. But we'll have a block on our school blocks webpage where people can go and they can find this information, and we'll get it updated on a regular basis so that our public knows. And one of the things I didn't mention is there will be a number posted on our website. And we're working through that process now, where I actually, as a point of contact, it's open. That line will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, we want to know, and I've told our faculty in meetings and our principals, I need to know at midnight if that's when we find out, because I don't need somebody coming to work the next day who's infected, you know, because they don't know what to do. So they know that we put a process for our employees. And as parents call our administrators, they know to contact me, and then I make direct contact with every individual.
All right. Any more questions for Shane or Jody before we move into action items? Take that as a no. Thank you guys for all the reports and information. I think it's, especially right now in this critical time, it's real important that we all kind of understand what's going on. And wow, it's mind-boggling. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's move to action items. And the first item will be to approve the July financials.
Good evening. If you will notice, the board report looks just a little bit different than it has in previous months. That is because I have moved the platform from Excel to Google, and I'm not a Google expert, so I don't know how to put in charts, but I'm going to work on that. Also, the state has overhauled the way that we code a lot of expenses and things. So I have changed some of the categories and things throughout the report to reflect the new way we have to record things in e-finance. We have always recorded them. It's just they are now asking us to separate certain items out that we haven't had to in the past. I'll go into more depth than that probably next month, but for July, we don't have a whole lot to report. Not a whole lot goes on in July. Salaries, I mean, operations still happen, salaries still happen, but as you can see, we do not have a budget yet. Still trying to finalize the 1920 school year, and I have to have that done by August 31st. So next month's board report will have a different beginning fund balance. And that's really all I've got this month, unless you all have any questions.
No. Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I move that we accept the July financials.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. We need to approve a therapy service agreement.
Yes, sir. We are short on speech therapists at this time. And the agreement that we have in here was one that had come in to interview for an open position and decided because of current circumstances that she might not want to have a job on site, but she did agree to do some teletherapy for us. And we desperately will need some because we are short several therapists at this point, and we don't have a whole lot of hopes of finding many right now. So I would ask you all to approve this as a contracted service. We've done this before with other therapists, occupational, physical, and speech. So I would ask that you approve that agreement with Jasmine Nile.
I would move that we approve the contract with Nile for speech therapy services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And that brings us to executive session for hiring and resignations. We all back into open session and unmuted. Jody with us? Okay. See all of us? Okay.
I see Grant, I see Audra, I see Connie,
Travis is there.
and I see Travis.
All right, so we're all back? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we'll move on to, let's see, no resignations, correct?
Correct.
All right. And we do have a hire.
Yes, sir. We are recommending Haley DeGache for high school science. Had a late resignation in science at the high school, and we're fortunate to find this young lady fresh out of Texas A&M, and I am not holding it against her.
Texas A&M.
Yes. I recommend that we hire her.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All right, we finally got it. We got it, I think. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, no sick leaves?
No, sir.
All right, that brings us to transfers in.
We have 3 students wanting to transfer in to Siloam Springs School District from Gentry. JC Long, age 9, Chloe Cisco, age 7, and Charleston Marnie, age 6. Recommend that we accept those transfers.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, transfers out.
Okay, we have actually several transfers out, a couple that came in late after we'd sent the packet out. To Gentry, we have Serenity Locke, age 16, Jada Walker, age 17, William Jackson, age 16, Colton Foster, age 11. And then to Farmington, Trilby Mansell, age 10. And to Fayetteville, Jonathan Garcia, age 13, Lisa Dang, age 17. So that is 6, 7. We approve these 7 transfers out.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to other business.
Okay, we have 3 items under other, and these are all action items, actually. First of all, there is a statement of assurance that was put in late into your packet in the supplement. This is something we do every year, and I sign off and board president signs off that we are going to follow all of the laws and rules pertaining to schools in the state of Arkansas. And we normally don't do this until September, but we were fired up and ready to assure the state that we are going to do this month. So I would ask that we approve this statement of assurance to standards at the State Department that we are going to follow all the rules and laws regarding schools in Arkansas.
I move that we approve the statement of assurance to follow the rules and laws of Arkansas.
Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Second item under other is an Act 1240 waiver request. And I'm going to turn back here. We have several waivers from the state because of COVID-19 and everything that we've had to do. Waivers of certain rules and regulations that we normally would have to follow. And the waiver that we are going to ask you all to approve as a 1240 waiver is actually, I think both of these are covered to some degree in the waivers that we already have. But the waivers that we already have are going to go away at some point when the emergency situation is finished. The two we have in this request for waiver will go to the State Board of Education. And we are doing this because they both have to do with our virtual academy. And we have taken effort to make sure that our virtual academy is something that we can sustain. It's not a short-term solution to the current issue. It is a long-term plan that we want to have as part of our school district. And so these both pertain specifically to virtual academy and virtual teaching. And one of them is the educator licensure waiver, so that if at the high school level, if we needed multiple classes taught by one teacher and that person may not be licensed in all of those areas, but we have a digital curriculum that they can lead students through, that would give us that ability to do that. And also at the elementary level, for example, we have Pearson curriculum at the elementary level for our virtual kids. We will have a second grade teacher teaching a second grade class virtually. We also would like that second grade teacher who is teaching virtually to do art and music and PE with our children, so that we don't have to have a licensed PE, art, and music teacher provide those minutes. We will do it within the classroom virtually with that one teacher. And so that's why the licensure is on there. The teaching load and class size waiver is the second one that we are asking for. And that would be so that our virtual teachers could have more than a regular classroom teacher, with the thinking that if the curriculum is provided, we are not, as Amy said earlier, we are anticipating a student would be in instruction for about 4 hours a day. A virtual teacher can handle more students than an in-class person teacher can. They don't have the classroom discipline necessarily with and all of the transitions. So that's the two things that we are asking for waivers on, and I would be happy to answer any questions about those. But I recommend that we send those on, that we approve those and send them on to the state board.
We talk about the licensure issue. We'd be hiring licensed teachers, not necessarily licensed in their area, or?
Correct. And our current charter at the high school, we have that same waiver so that we can get some business type people to teach CTE courses. But this one really is specifically so that we can kind of double up on some things and not have to pull a teacher for a PE class or an art class at the elementary grades. Or if we could do multiple electives with one teacher at the high school or the secondary level with a small number of kids, it would enable us to do that.
Makes sense to me.
So you need a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And I have one other action item under other. We have updated our summer hire list one last time.
Summer's over, Jody.
Well, it's not quite. We have paid some people to do some extra work here at the end of summer, especially getting ready for everything that is going on. And so we have some additions to our summer hire list that I would ask you to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Now I just have some announcements. Certified transfers. We are moving Corey Loftus, a speech therapist at Allen, to the high school this year. Two classified hires to note: Lisa Weiss for food service, Marcia DePriest, Northside nurse. Classified resignation: Abigail Walcott Kim at intermediate. She was an ESOL aide. We are adding additional duties to Rob Holman, who is currently part-time transportation employee. He is going to take on some additional duties as Southside food service. And then we have classified transfers, people who we are moving from one building to another. Carrie Brown is moving from Northside nurse to middle school nurse. Rebecca Flaw is moving from intermediate special ed para to high school. Cynthia Scarlin is moving from food service manager in training to the Northside kitchen manager. Amanda Jinks is moving from a food service sub to intermediate school full-time. Karen Anderson is moving from food service sub to Southside cafeteria. Maria Rivera de Martinez is moving from food service sub to Northside cafeteria. Rachel Carter is moving from sped para to virtual academy administrative assistant. So yes, we are hiring that administrative assistant this evening at virtual academy. Those do not require action on your part, just letting you know. And that is all I have, sir.
All right. Well, thank you again for all the hard work you guys are doing. It's just mind-boggling to me what has to happen prior to school and what's going to happen. So thank you for all the work you're doing for the kids.
Did not say anything, but I would like to thank our chamber. We had a back to school breakfast early yesterday that the chamber put a lot of work into, and I thought it was a very nice event. And I thought that they celebrated our teachers and our school district very well. And I'm appreciative to our chamber for their support. And I know several of you all attended that virtually, and just wanted to make a point to thank them.
I love that thank you video that they had. It's good.
All right, with that, I think maybe a motion to adjourn.
Absolutely. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.